Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Bar Kauyak. This movie tells the story of a disgraced MMA fighter who takes over the family bar after his brother dies in a car crash. He soon learns his sibling's death wasn't an accident and attempts to take revenge on those responsible. Can he get his revenge and return to be a great MMA fighter? Let's find out in Bar Kauyak. Bar Kauyak begins by showing the atmosphere of the MMA fight between Thomas Bar Kauyak and a fighter named Conrad. Towards the end of the first half, where Thomas dominates the fight and corners Conrad several times, someone appears to exchange Thomas's drink, which is placed on the side of the battle arena. Thomas, who did not realize this, then drank it just like that during the break. After the second half started, Thomas felt his body suddenly become unwell and fell into a daze, so Conrad could easily knock him down several times and dominate the fight. Thomas's coach then asked the man to stop the fight, but he was ignored. In the end, Thomas lost the fight. 6 months after that, Thomas is now working as a security guard at his family's bar run by his older brother Victor. That night, Thomas has to deal with a cocky and noisy rapper named Steppy D. Thomas then asks Steppy to leave for making other visitors feel uncomfortable. However, Steppy ignored him and instead ordered his bodyguard to beat up Thomas and the other bar security guards. Since Thomas used to be a tough former MMA fighter, he had no trouble dealing with Steppy's bodyguard, who was taller than him. Thomas and the bar security guards managed to secure the situation and dragged Steppy D out with his bodyguard, where a crowd of people had been waiting in front of the bar to take a picture of Steppy D, who is a famous rapper. The next day, Victor visited Thomas at his house and suggested that his brother return to being an MMA fighter. However, Thomas refused it. Victor then told Thomas that Thomas's current coach became an alcoholic due to bankruptcy after Thomas decided to resign from the fighting arena for good. Before leaving, Victor gave Thomas's boxing gloves and hoped that his brother would consider his suggestion. After hugging his brother, Victor left by driving a car. A few hours later, Thomas received news from his mother that Victor had an accident and was declared dead. Thomas rushed to the crime scene, where he saw Victor's car was badly crushed. After Victor's death, Thomas then met his former lover named Dominika and asked where her father was. Dominika's father, Pavel Sozoniuk, is Thomas's former coach who became an alcoholic due to bankruptcy. Thomas then met Pavel at a bar and informed him of Victor's death. Thomas intends to invite Pavel to attend his brother's funeral, of course, conscious and not drunk out of respect for his late brother. Long story short, the day of Victor's funeral arrived. Thomas stood in front of his family and relatives who attended the event while telling all the goodness of his brother during his life, in expressing how much Thomas loved his brother and felt very lost after Victor's sudden death. At the funeral, it seemed that Dominika and Pavel were also present there, but they did not greet each other, because Dominika was very disappointed in her father because Pavel chose to be a drunkard and no longer cared about his family. A few days later, Thomas came to Pavel at the now abandoned boxing training ground. Pavel then expressed his disappointment at Thomas, who was a coward, because he chose to withdraw from the battle arena after being defeated by Conrad, which cost Pavel all his money for betting on Thomas's victory. Hearing this, Thomas tried to apologize, but he also blamed Pavel for risking all his money in an unpredictable battle arena. Pavel is angry, then challenges Thomas to fight with him, where Thomas is able to defeat Pavel easily because Pavel is under the influence of alcohol. The scene then switches and shows Thomas, who is with his mother. Thomas, who at that time was checking the financial statements of his family's bar, was then asked by his mother to continue the family business by running the bar, replacing his late brother. However, Thomas refused his mother's request and said that he intended to sell the bar. Although slightly disappointed by Thomas's decision, she still left the final decision to her youngest son and respected his desire to sell the bar rather than continue the family business. On the other hand, Dominika is attending a meeting with her boss clients, where her boss is convincing investors to invest because the company intends to build an elite and modern area that has never existed in the city. However, Dominika said that this would be difficult to realize, considering that the residents there would not simply sell their land to the company. It turns out that behind it, the company has hired thugs led by Conrad, the fighter who defeated Thomas, who will threaten the residents who are reluctant to sell their land to the company. Conrad and his henchmen did not even hesitate to use violence to achieve their goals, so many residents who were afraid of being tortured then sold their land at a low price to the company. Turning to Thomas, who was training boxing at his home, he got a call from a potential buyer who wanted to buy his bar for $2 million. Hearing a price offer that was quite tempting, Thomas rushed to meet the prospective buyer. On the way, Thomas helped an old man to load his things into the car and asked kindly where they were going and why his head hurt. However, the wife of the man asked Thomas to leave immediately and not to interfere in their business. Tomas finally met the prospective buyer and immediately signed several documents for the sale and purchase agreement. However, when Tomas was about to sign the final document, he saw the stamp of the Sandstall Company, which made him remember the truck that had hit his brother's car, where the truck belonged to the Sandstall Company. Realizing that there was something odd about Victor's death, Tomas then canceled the transaction by tearing up the document. Elsewhere, there is a man named Rafal, a highly respected politician in the city, who is none other than Conrad's uncle. After learning that Tomas has not sold his family's bar and will keep the bar, Rafal then orders Conrad to negotiate with Tomas, because only his bar has not been controlled by the company, while other residents have sold their land and moved out of the area. Tomas reopened his bar and managed it together with Dominika. The bar owned by the Barkowiak family was even more crowded with people. Tomas re-employs security officers who were previously laid off, while he resumes a romantic relationship with Dominika. His business was going smoothly for the next few days, until finally Tomas saw Conrad's appearance at his bar and asked what he was doing at his bar. Conrad instead asked why Tomas had given up on selling his bar. Conrad then left from there and ordered his men to make a fuss. Luckily, the security officers managed to secure the situation and chase them away. Even Pavel, who was there, had challenged one of Conrad's men, but they chose to leave because they knew Pavel's fighting ability. Elsewhere, Rafal meets the chairman of Sandstall, who is Dominika's boss, and asks the man to get rid of Dominika because she is dating Tomas. However, Dominika's boss assures Rafal that she will not get in the way of their plans, even though she has an affair with a bar owner who is reluctant to sell his bar to Rafal. One night, while at the bar with Dominika and other customers, Tomas was startled by an explosion sound coming from not far from his bar. After that, Tomas got a call from Conrad, threatening that the next target of the bomb would be a bar owned by the Barkowiak family. Tomas then asked if Conrad was involved with Victor's death. Conrad then replied that what happened to Victor should be a lesson for Tomas not to hinder Rafal's plan. The next day, Dominika, realizing that they had been having problems lately, asked Tomas to sell his bar. But Tomas remained determined to maintain the bar, especially after he found out that Conrad and Rafal were responsible for his brother's death. Dominika also respects Tomas's decision and promises to always support him. That evening, Conrad kidnaps the bar guards and kills them, then sends Tomas the picture. Not only that, Conrad also ordered his henchmen to riot in Barkowiak's bar while Tomas wasn't there. Pavel, who happened to be there, then faced the thugs alone. Because Pavel used to be a former fighter, he was able to defeat the thugs. Not long after, Tomas and Dominika arrived at Barkowiak's bar and found that the bar was in disarray, and Pavel was lying weakly on the floor. It turned out that the man had received a stab wound, so he had to be rushed to the hospital. The police who investigated the incident instead blamed Tomas and would close the bar because there was often a commotion there. Tomas then assumed that the police had been bribed by Rafal. The next day, Rafal then ordered his nephew to kidnap Dominika to threaten Tomas so that he would sell his bar. After that incident, Tomas had to close his bar, and he was even more frustrated when he found out that the bar security guards had been killed by Conrad. Dominika was worried about her boyfriend. She then asked Tomas to just go home and rest while she would clean the bar. However, while Dominika was cleaning the bar alone, Conrad appeared and then kidnapped her. Fortunately, Tomas returned to the bar and found out about this, so the fight between Tomas and Conrad took place again, even though outside the battle arena. Conrad managed to corner Tomas, knock him out and then strangle him. Conrad then said that Tomas was not like his brother, who screamed in fear when he was about to be killed that time. Hearing this, Tomas was instantly furious, and then got up to turn the situation around and finally succeeded in overthrowing Conrad. Not long after, Rafal called Conrad's cell phone and asked if he had managed to kidnap Dominika. Tomas picked up the phone, then said that he had killed Conrad. Tomas and Dominika then head to Dominika's boss's house to lure Rafal. But it turns out that Dominika's boss is planning to run away with all the money. Before the man could leave his house, Rafal and his henchmen had surrounded the place. They managed to paralyze Tomas and take Dominika hostage, while Rafal, knowing that Dominika's boss intended to escape, then killed him. When Dominika was taken away, Tomas remained there and felt the painful torment. A man named Buaze approaches Tomas and reveals that he was the one who exchanged Tomas's drinks while fighting Conrad in an MMA fight that caused Tomas to lose. While Buaze was torturing Tomas, suddenly Pavel appeared behind him and immediately finished him off. Pavel then saves Tomas and takes him to his house. Tomas says that he will give up and sell the bar to save Dominika. But Pavel tells Tomas not to give up because they can save Dominika without losing the Barkowiak family's bar. Pavel informs them that there is a formidable fighter who will help them, which is none other than Stepi's tall bodyguard whom Tomas has defeated before. That same night, the three immediately infiltrated Rafal's residence to save Dominika. They managed to knock out the guards one by one. Rafal, who realized this, then grabbed his gun and finally faced Tomas. The two of them got into a fierce fight, where Rafal was able to dominate the fight because he had weapons. Tomas didn't just give up and continued to fight Rafal until he finally managed to kill the man. Tomas and the others then save Dominika and leave from there. A few days after the incident, Tomas was seen visiting Pavel's training ground, which has now been restored and is no longer abandoned. Many people practice there, including children and teenagers. Tomas also decided to return to being an MMA fighter, because it was his late brother's last wish. Pavel then challenges Tomas to fight with him, but they end up hugging because Tomas has officially proposed to Dominika to be his wife, and Pavel of course very much approves of his daughter's marriage to Tomas. The film ends. The moral message of this film is, never give up or lose hope, to fight for justice, and fight against acts of abuse by government officials who only think about their own interests.